Alright guys, back at the house watching Mighty Ducks, making peanut butter and jellies. What do you guys know about Gordon Bombay? Only Gordon can teach those kids how to fly like ducks. Only Gordon. Which one is this? Like D3? D2? The $13 trillion lie. Invest with us, we'll beat the market. Our goal shouldn't be to pick winners. We can't do that. There's no guarantee we can do that. The smarter thing to do is to own a cross-section of businesses or a broad cross-section of America that are bound to do well over time. A low-cost S&P 500 index fund would achieve that goal. Maybe even something boring like SCHD or sector-specific like VGT or QQQ for tech. That's not my advice. What I just said was written inside of Warren Buffett's 2013 letter to his shareholders. Well, not the VGT and the QQQ part, but the S&P 500. When you look at the results on an after-fee, after-tax basis over reasonably long periods of time, there's literally almost no chance that you end up beating the index fund. If you turn on CNBC now, it's like watching ESPN. Stock tickers look less like businesses and more like a gambling site. In reality, businesses are pretty boring. They move pretty slow. Not that much changes within 24 hours. All right, guys, back at the house. Just made more peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Now we're getting back on the streets. Now we're getting back on the streets. In the 992. Look, it doesn't fit. What's it even good for, huh? All right, let's fire this bad boy up. What do you think about a yellow 911? All right, guys, back on the streets on foot. About to hit up an indoor pool. All right, guys, back on the streets. We're going over speed bumps. Try not to scrape the front lip. This thing does have a front axle lift, but I need to fix it. It's nice and chilly outside. It says 64 degrees, feels colder. I want you guys to hear the turbos. All right, guys, back at the house. All right, guys, now I'm making after basketball food. What's up, guys? Brand new day, 5:30 a.m. All right, guys, getting back out there. About to fire up the 911. It's nice and crispy out here. Just finished at the gym. Brand new day. I don't know how many of you guys buy real estate. That's what I used to be into, and now I'm pretty much just stock market. But over the long term, the stock market hasn't been a bad place to be. You know, if you put $1 million in 1935 in the stock market, it'd be worth $2.5 billion today. Probably more, actually, than now. I don't know. So if you just bought the S&P 500 and just held on and didn't do anything from 1934 until now, you would have had the Cuban Missile Crisis. You would have had Nixon removing the dollar from the gold standard. You would have had Desert Storm, the oil embargo. You would have had all kinds of stuff if you never watched a headline or didn't do anything, and the money just sat and compounded like the dead man portfolio. You just don't touch it. I like the Peter Lynch quote. He said, selling your winners and adding to your losers is like cutting your flowers and watering your weeds. Or Charlie Munger, who said, the first rule of compounding, don't interrupt it unnecessarily. Just leave it alone. I think that's our biggest problem. I'm my own worst enemy. Two people watching this channel we could both be buying the S&P 500, but one could have way better returns than I do because I'm buying and selling or thinking I'm timing the market. But you know, if you have a 401k at your work, 401ks can be great in the sense that you could get the match from your employer. But there's also negatives to them that people don't talk about. Like, for example, maybe the salesman that's pushing you to put your money in the specific mutual fund. And it's like, what are you really betting on when you buy the mutual fund? You're betting on the fact that the fund manager can pick better stocks than you can. But history shows not many people can beat the S&P 500 over long periods of time. Plus, take into account the fee you're probably paying. That fee over time, that money that you would have kept and compounded, it adds up to a large amount. If your 401k is invested in an actively managed mutual fund, what is it that you're really buying? Or what are you hoping for? There's $13 trillion in mutual funds. But check out this statistic. Over 96% of the actively managed mutual funds fail to beat the S&P 500 over a long period of time. Over 96%. And you're paying an extra fee for that 401k. I mean, I'm not saying to not have a 401k, you know, if your employer matches you, that's amazing. But I'm just saying take these things into account. So you have the choice, instead of betting on some actively managed mutual fund and paying an extra fee, you could just buy an index fund, an ETF, something like VOO, which is market cap weighted. So it's the top 500 companies in the United States. The top ones rise to the top of the ETF, and the losers fall down to the bottom, and if they fall off, they're systematically replaced. So it's self-cleansing. You don't have to worry about someone picking the next winner. Not financial advice, and I'm not telling you to not have a 401k. I'm no one to tell you whether or not to have one or not. I didn't even go to college. One, the fee that you're paying, and two, the fact that there is a promise that they can possibly beat the S&P 500, which the data shows isn't really the case over the long term. Back at the house eating eggs. My wife's cooking all kinds of stuff. 7:55. All right, guys, back to cart. So maybe if you're young, just keep it simple. Just buy a low-cost index fund. It's dollar cost average over a long, long time. Keep it simple. This is not financial advice, and there's no guarantee that it always will go up. I mean, you can look at Japan for an example, but it can be a good place to start. For me personally, I've always been obsessed with cash flow, because I always found cash flow to equal freedom for me. Like, you know, money actually coming in that hits my bank account in a certain period, or every quarter, or every month, or every week. So I always found that cash flow was freedom. I'm going to make a whole detailed video about it. Guys getting back on the street in the 911. You know, think about it, through depressions. Well, back to Porsches. So I was looking last night at 996s online. Dude, you know what car I would get if I could? I don't have the money. But what I would get is, I would get a 996 turbo. Honestly, I think that Mesker engine is like a solid platform, dude. Did you see that you can just get you can get aftermarket turbos, CAC, intake piping, maybe exhaust headers, whatever, so you get that turbo, open it up, you hear the turbos. They can produce like 850 horsepower on ethanol. On 93 octane, like 700 plus horsepower with bolt-ons. It's pretty wild. But one thing you need to do with those is you need to pin the coolant hoses. The coolant hoses blow off. But if you track a 996, I think that those turbos, those coolant pipes, they're kind of hard to get to. You got to remove the intake. You even have to sag the motor down, or even drop the engine to get to it sometimes, I think. And the coolant pipes are like behind the alternator. These two coolant tubes. You have to weld them. You have to either weld metal pipes, like solid metal pipes, or you pin them like people. I guess they like put a screw in, and they put like RTV or something to keep it from leaking. I don't know. I'm not sure of the process, but some people have used JB Weld. They do weird things to keep them from blowing off. And man, what if I got a high mileage 996 turbo and just didn't even care about looks, just went full-blown power. Just tried to produce as much horsepower as we could with it and get that loud turbo sound. Make it a sleeper, make the license plate say something cool. Yeah, this is a Men in Black elevator. We're gonna go off this side. Oh, never mind. Check out the Turbo GT. All right, guys, we're getting back on the streets. Next stop activated. Parent duties. 10,000 options. That's how many options you have of something you could buy. And that's not even including cryptocurrencies or bonds. That's just mutual funds, index funds, single stocks. You have over 10,000 options. It can get complicated pretty quickly. Choose to buy an index fund, an ETF. You don't have to pay a professional an extra fee to try to pick the winners, when the data shows that they're not very good at it anyway, over the long term. You buy the index, it's done for you, because the Standard & Poor's, they selected the top 500 companies for you. The losers fall off and the winners win, rise to the top. Go on like YouTube and type in video of the top companies changing over the years. I don't know the name of the video, but it'll show you. You'll be able to see the companies rise to the top. AT&T go down, disappear off the list, go back up. New ones come up. Amazon was at the top, it comes down. Tesla goes to the top. Nvidia works its way up to the top. Who knows? We don't know. Maybe Super Microcomputer will be at the top. But when you invest in the index, you don't have to worry about that, if that's the winner or not. You just own the basket, and over time it cleanses itself, and you just have a cross-section of America. And you just hope that over time they find a way to provide more value to the shareholders and customers, and the stock price will continue to rise. In the short term, the stock is a voting machine. In the long term, it's a weighing machine based on its earnings. But I think it's worth remembering that statistic that over 96% will fail to beat or match the return of the S&P 500 over any long period of time. It's really worth remembering that when you think like, you know what, I'm going to gamble and take the chance on this, and that. Or I think I can pick this, and this, and that. If something happens to you and your account's sitting there and it's got, I don't know, Butterfly Network stock in it and Rigetti Computing, and your family's like, I guess this is what he wanted, so let's just hold it, and you might end up doing amazing. I'm not bashing those stocks. Those are just names I've mentioned in the past. I'm just saying that over the long term, I think that it's better to have an index fund. For me, I like cash flow, so I'm focused on a fund that is focused on dividends. But same theory. To buy SCHD, which is a passively managed ETF. It aims to meet the performance of the Dow Jones Dividend 100. If you're young, your best bet's probably just keep it simple, create a system, stay consistent, and you're going to have really good results, I bet, in the long term. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys on the next video. I appreciate you guys.